Welcome, guys, to KC Happy Hour episode 16. We are happy to be back live on the air with you guys once again here Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. We've got a host of guests coming on. The last time we were live was with the Rock Cup USA crew, Garrett Potter and Robbie Poupart. Broke a lot of big news that week or last week on Tuesday night. We're going to have a lot of our regular casting crew along with our featured guests break down a lot of that urgently of what we've got to look forward to 2022 and, of course, ROK Vegas. There's also a lot of other news that came over the weekend. So let's go ahead and bring them all on. Four-time champs, Nank it. Five-time now for Ryan Norberg joins the show. Of course, he's back here again.
Better get it right. Better get it right.
Yep. Four-time champion Brandon Jarsakrak is here, who will be back in 2022. We always joke about retiring for how old these guys are getting to run senior against 15-year-olds. They're both going to be back. And, of course, the featured guests who every once in a while get behind the wheel but also do a lot more work in the sport and probably would happily love to go head-to-head with these guys prime to prime. Let's go ahead and bring them in. First up, one of our first featured guests, first time on the show, Alex Speed is here from Speed Concepts Racing and Speed Lab Engines. Tony Tesoro, wild man, somehow has the internet turned on tonight. Oh, there he is. Hi, Tony. Nice to see you. We've, of course, got two more. Austin Miles, first time on the show, data guru, tuner, driver, coach
Data
extraordinaire. And Race Liberante is here as well, who's making a return appearance for a couple times already back on the show. First of all, guys, as always, thanks for joining us. Now let's bring it in to a couple of the updates. I want to talk a little bit to the crowd really quick as everyone tunes in. I know we were a little bit behind with our kart chaser videos that we had coming out over these last weekend. We actually ended up doing a lot of extra footage, more than what we normally do for a KC episode. So that's got us a little bit behind on the editing. We're going to hopefully have our USPKS GoPro episode out later this week. We're shooting for Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern for the drop time. We've also got bonus videos coming on this week. There'll be a mic'd up video coming from USPKS GoPro with a bunch of unused footage, a mic'd up video coming all the way back from the CKNA Grand Nationals, which was some footage on the grid and four-cycle racing. And we've got an all-access video coming from Trinity Karting Group through this week, possibly into next, as we get ready to hype you guys up for ROK Vegas. We also, of course, had a few races go on over the weekend, karts and cars. We're going to talk about some of the karting stuff first and bring it back over to the rest of the guys. Race, Brandon, Tony, you guys were over at the Buckeye Karting Challenge this week. Race, we'll pass it off to you first, buddy, because you were out there ripping. Talk to us about the weekend.
Actually, it's a really great local little state series that we like to take some of our locals to. So just to go have some fun and race some different guys at their caliber. It's more of a club feel, but they bring over 150 entries to most of their events at these little tracks. In Ohio, they capped off their year with 170 entries, and it was a really fun, great event.
Sweet. And Brandon, you've worked a handful of these too. Open tire rule for Buckeye Karting Challenge, almost old school karting, right? You were working with Jake Walker?
Yeah, I was there actually helping the Roderick Racing Development crew. And then Jake was just kind of like a last minute add-on. He wanted to stay in the seat to get some seat time, so he came out. Yeah, overall, we had a pretty good weekend. AJ won the Briggs Senior Championship. Chuck won the Masters race, and Jake was running third, and then we had some motor issues, and unfortunately wasn't able to continue on.
So quick recaps, of course, for all that. Tony, you were there, but you're in a different little role than these guys. Obviously, you're full-time with TKG, the team based out of Motorsports Country Club of Cincinnati, one of the multiple tracks undergoing facelifts for 2022. You guys have got something pretty cool coming up this weekend. You got a Halloween club race, and then that's it. It's time to tear it down and go to a whole new layout, right? The track's getting torn up over the winter. Full new facelift for the facility?
Yeah, facelift and an add-on. So, like, it's going to add on. By the time it's all done, it'll be like a little bit sort of like the 1.1, like Newcastle as a whole. But now, to be honest, it's going to be probably more than the rest. Yeah. Happens very soon, man.
Yeah, so it's very MCC is going to be having a club race actually coming up in this weekend for Halloween. There's a lot of club series that do really cool stuff right for Halloween weekend. Theirs is going to be a little more special because it's the last chance for guys to go and run on the classic layout. Dallas Karting Complex, we've given you guys updates on that track that a couple weeks ago is getting a facelift and some new layouts for 2022. They've been working on that project for almost 5 years, going back to when they first came out with the site plans for it. Finally got everything together. That track got torn up, I think, last week, or at least started to get torn up with the dirt moving in. So they've got stuff going on. MCC's got stuff going on, but there's a Halloween weekend coming up. There's no big racing because everybody nationally is getting ready for ROK Vegas. Alex, we'll talk to him in a minute. He's been full bore having guys, everybody all hands on deck for the Speed Lab engines to get those engines ready for ROK Vegas. They said they got over 40. I'll have Alex talk a little more about that. But regional racing and club racing still in full swing with the Buckeye guys running last week. There are a bunch of clubs that do cool stuff for Halloween. Always want to give a shout out to the clubs that go above and beyond. There's, I believe, a 4-cycle showdown race coming up over in Phoenix, I think in November, if I'm not mistaken. That's another one of those big markup events that the Southern Tracks can do. Newcastle Motorsports Park, I think either just wrapping up their season. They always do something fun for Halloween. Had a costume contest over the weekend. MCC's throwing up a money race up in Cincinnati. They still haven't finalized all the deals on that, but that'd be something cool. So if you want to be part of karting history and go run a layout before it gets changed forever, again, as Tony said, an add-on, it's going to take you from a 3/4 mile track to a 1.1 mile track. Shout out to the guys at MCC Cincinnati. They'll have a one final club race this weekend and then get to work because it's about that time. Most of the northern tracks starting to shut off. Canada's starting to shut off, getting ready, which means we get a lot of Canadians coming down to ROK Vegas.
It's cold as fuck here, dude. That's everything off. It's cold as fuck. I swear, it is fucking cold. That is the problem. As a whole, like, I swear to God, like, all
you
day.
said you didn't leave your room today, Tony. You couldn't make it outside.
Okay, it's fucking 60
just
degrees. It's terrible. You guys laugh.
Well, Race last is the season Northerner now. Race has been up in Pittsburgh for a little while.
Yeah,
Well,
it's
fucking
no
Race is
California or
fucking-
Florida though. It took some getting used to coming from the beautiful weather. Alex, look at him. Yeah, he's sunburned and he lives there.
Yeah. No, that's my red normal tone. His natural hue.
Fuck off.
My natural hue.
Fuck off. Fuck off. Either way, it's cold.
Yeah.
So,
Well, no matter what, you guys are staying busy down there, Alex. Are you guys 7 days a week putting motors together to get ready for next week?
Pretty much 7 days a week. We took half Sunday off, do a little family time, and now it's just motor. The dyno's running pretty much from 9 a.m. till I left at 6 o'clock today, and dyno's still burning down.
poor pops.
And
You guys
along
are
with the motor stuff.
poor money. They're killing them. They're just killing them.
Oh, he can handle it.
Beyond the motor stuff, though, Alex, you guys have been busy over the last few weeks. The biggest announcement, and probably one of the bigger things that we've seen in a little bit with the U.S. schedule this year, was getting Kyle Larson to come and run with you guys. And it was not like a pre-planned, like 6-month out deal. It was in typical racing fashion. The best stuff comes together kind of last second. And you got to run, I mean, the exposure that he brought, even just off pictures for our post, was like 30 to 50,000 people reached.
Yeah, it was definitely last minute. He's one of the drivers my brother and Josh Wise work with the NASCAR stuff, doing driver coaching. And my brother contacted me on Tuesday. You know, I'm leaving Wednesday to go to the race. Contacted me on Tuesday saying, "Hey, you know, Kyle wants to do this race. Can we make it happen?" Of course, the extra work is stressful, but the publicity that Kyle brings to the sport is fantastic, and we're happy to make it happen.
Right, and I think speaking for everybody, I think he impressed a lot of people, over the weekend. I mean, a guy was his first. He'd run, I don't even think he ran the Winter Series events. That was like a first proper race for him at GoPro. Granted, he'd driven there before, he tested a little bit, but he has no background in it at all, and jumped right into a field where he's going against guys like Ryan and Brandon who have pedigrees in the sport decades long.
Yeah, I mean, for us, there's a lot of stress on us because, I mean, Kyle pretty much wins everything he drives in. So for us, like, he's not up front. Is it our responsibility or not? He was, great to work with. Super professional. Really talented. He definitely had, high expectations, as you'd expect from, a professional racing driver. I was worried, only racing Saturday, only a couple days of practice. I was worried he'd lose the fire and just easily pick, karting aside. And, he left. He said, no, I want to do this again, which was really cool to hear. He's a proper racer. And just was really good to work with him.
Yeah, and I mean, like you said, the notoriety that he brings both you guys and then the sport as a whole is huge. Karting's kind of gone through, and I want to ask, you and Smiles and Tony and Race even a little bit, because we've seen waves at Supernats, we've seen waves even at Winter Tour with some of the old CKI events that they would put on even during the winter at the expos and stuff like that. You get pros to kind of come in, and Dan Weldon and Jamie McMurray, they'd run Daytona and Supernats almost every year for a little bit. What is the sport's not necessarily doing anything different? Can the sport do anything different to bring more guys like that and to get more interest for guys to do these one-offs in the off season?
For me, I think it's tough to do the one-offs. I think, especially with big sponsors, a lot of drivers look at, maybe the risk over reward. It was nice to see what real racers want to do. Kyle's definitely a real racer, wants to do what he can, and I think obviously within his contract he can do some kart races. He enjoyed doing it. Like I said, we've seen Dan Weldon did a lot of karting. Same with Jamie McMurray. It's definitely cool for those guys to come be part of the sport, and it's nice to see kind of the bell curve. You see the kids leave karting at senior and think, oh, karting's beneath me, but then come back and see real professional drivers like that see the advantages and can actually still learn doing go-kart racing.
Yeah, and so any teasers already on where have you guys talked at all since about where you can try and fit them in over the winter or into 22 anywhere?
No teasers. I know that he left the kart track Saturday night to go to I think he went to Texas, and he won the race Texas, and he was already texted my brother saying, I want to drive a kart. He drove a kart on this Friday already again. So definitely a true racer. He wanted to win, even though the odds are stacked against him to win a go-kart race against guys to drive every weekend. That's still his goal, and hopefully we can make it happen in the future for him.
Yeah, I mean, for those who don't follow NASCAR too well, Kyle just won his third Cup race in a row this weekend at Kansas. The guy's been on fire all year. 9 total wins on the season. He is headed to the championship 4. NASCAR is obviously the only major racing series that doesn't do a season-long point standings. If they did, I mean, he'd already be long gone running away with it without the resets that they've had to kind of keep everyone going through. But he's won, I think, almost every playoff round. And then comes into a 4, best of 4, goes to Phoenix. Top out of the 4 drivers win the championship. But no matter what, the guy's had a banner year in his first year with Hendrick Motorsports. So it's obviously cool. We can't beat our chest too hard because it's such a different discipline, karting to cars, as everybody in here knows. But it's cool that a guy, not just some guy, halfway in it or a guy that, rode in. I mean, Kyle doesn't have to do any of this. He doesn't have to come and run a go-kart race. He doesn't have to come and beat himself up Saturday night and then go hop in a cup kart for 4 hours at Texas Motor Speedway and he's racing for millions of dollars in a cup championship, but he does. And so I think that's the coolest thing that everyone here can appreciate. And, Brandon and Ryan, you guys were on track with them. Ryan, we haven't gotten to you yet, man. How does it, you probably got to talk to him a little bit on the grid, or Will or Joseph, I mean, running against those guys got to feel really cool.
I think the coolest part is more interacting with them, driving against somebody, of that caliber on the racetrack. Once you put a helmet on, I mean, you see that it's that person, but it's really not as cool as just interacting with those guys on like a racer to racer level. We finally have something that's in common between, you and like a Will Power or Joseph Newgarden. You can like talk racing and like you both are talking about the same thing. And, I talked to Will Power and there's times where he would ask for advice from me and I'm like, dude, I don't have any of the pedigree that you have. Like, it's just funny to be like interacting with these guys on that level. And yeah, it's really cool to be racing these guys and to see them coming back to the sport. And it seems like more and more now that these drivers are starting to do it, which, I hope happens more. I hope they realize that karting's not always dangerous. If you're racing the mid pack, it's sketchy, but I hope they, get some leniency with their sponsors and they can come race some more. That would be really cool.
And Brandon, you too, man, lining up on the grid with all those guys and getting to talk to them.
Yeah, it's definitely really cool to race against all those really big name people. And I think one of the coolest thing is that every single one of them is willing to talk to pretty much anyone that was at the go-kart track. So they're really friendly people and everything like that. And like Ryan said, sometimes Will comes and asks for advice. I didn't really get to talk to Kyle or Joseph very much, but Will was always on the grid talking smack like all the kids do to each other. So yeah, it was a really cool experience.
And Smiles, you got your stuff working. You got a up close and personal look at all that over the weekend too. I mean, how cool is that for you?
It was pretty awesome, actually. Like, Kyle is one of the most down to earth guys that I've gotten a chance to be around, just like Barrichello was when he came to us at OGP. I think it was pretty awesome to have those three guys there, Will Power and Joseph included. Like, I don't see any reason why we couldn't try to get more of those guys other than their conflicting schedules. So,
yeah, it'd be. I mean, that's the one downside of the weekends is our schedule never stops. But a lot of these guys don't.
Tony,
Your couch is fantastic. Your couch is fantastic. Like, I swear to God, like
it's so comfy.
Oh, like Jesus Christ! You nice.
We'll have to take our first commercial break of the night here, guys, but we will come right back. We want to bring and really talk to these guys about everything coming up in the next week and a half in Las Vegas. So, again, all that news that dropped, the new track layout, the stuff for 2022's national calendar, and more. That's the main reason. We obviously got to talk about the news. Cool stuff of having pros race, and hopefully we'll get to see him more. But stick with us as we come back for the commercial break. Tony Tesoro's thoughts, you never know what's going to happen. So we'll give him the chance to lead us off and come back about the track layout.
You guys never know. Don't hold your breath either.
You'd be hard-pressed to find a team that has won more races, won more championships, and produced more top-level drivers than Rawlison Performance Group in the last decade. RPG is most commonly known as the premier driver development program in North America, specifically based on the team's unique approach when it comes to fostering talent. Rather than looking at things on a race-by-race basis, RPG focuses on building season-based plans for each driver, each with a heavy weight towards private training weekends at their home base at Pat's Acres Racing Complex. Each training weekend puts drivers on track with national champions such as Ryan Norberg, Austin Garrison, and Luke Selikin for hundreds of laps. Add that to the meticulous equipment prep done by RPG's team of professional mechanics, and you've got a winning combination. For more information on how to start your driver development journey with RPG, visit RollisonPerformanceGroup.com. Kart Store USA is a kart parts supplier that racers and retailers can count on when they need reliable advice and service. We focus on servicing all racers with honesty and pride while maintaining customer satisfaction. We carry a full stock of Kart Republic and Tony Kart chassis, as well as IAMI and Vortex ROK engines. We've also got a host of other parts available and in stock, such as products from Rev Performance Materials, Jekko Racing Seats, and more. We have a 100% satisfaction guarantee, and on top of that, if your order exceeds $200, shipping is on us. Check out all we have to offer today by visiting us online at kartstore-usa.com. All right, guys. Oh, we lost Tony. He must have taken another one.
He's taking a cigarette break.
I said that's a cigarette break for sure.
We had him right before the show. Well, let's at least clear out. Oh, you can hear him yelling in the background. Everybody wants it to talk over the layout. Let's go ahead and put the layout on screen. Talk about that first really quick. So, first of all, the brand new layout for the ROK Vegas event officially came out through our show, through our special live edition from ROK Cup USA's own Garrett Potter and Robbie Poupart. Complete redesign as they got moved from one lot to the adjacent lot with a whole lot of typical Las Vegas politics trying to navigate. The guys that put on events, they're always talking about how tough it is to deal with the city of Las Vegas because no matter what, you are such a small drop, small fish in such a big pond when it comes to putting on shows on the strip, and that's as close as we get to big cities. So luckily they were able to redesign it. But while we wait on Tony to get back from his smoke break, let's go ahead and he's back.
He's back.
He's back. It just
It's
out of
magic.
nowhere appeared. All right, Tony, let's give it to you to kick off the conversation. First thoughts when you saw or are seeing this now, new layout for ROK Vegas 2021 complete changeup.
I mean, I can't see how anyone can say it's terrible. Like the layout as a whole, though. I mean, dude, it's Vegas. There's nothing wrong with it. Like I don't understand how anyone can complain about it.
Are you talking that in terms of the old layout too? You think Brandon and Ryan were completely out of line for
As a whole, though? I mean, what do you expect that putting a track in a like that? If you have to change a couple corners,
Is it a loss for words?
As a whole.
I didn't think we could get you this stump, Tony. I mean,
No, I'm not stopping. Look,
straight down the track. All right. We're being a terrible audience.
Yes.
Tony. We really are. No. All right, seriously. First thoughts on the layout, though. I know you saw the original layout, right? What these guys were originally going for, did you not?
right.
Yeah.
Yes,
So
I
we
did.
changed it up here. You did? Okay. So changed it up. Brand new layout. Bunch more hairpins. Obviously a little bit more technical. About a 700-foot long straightaway down at the bottom.
I mean, what is the question? Like, is it bad or good? No, there's nothing with that layout. That is exactly what a Vegas layout is supposed to be. I mean,
Okay. I wanted to know if you thought good or bad. Yeah, if you just say it is what
No,
it is,
it's-
that's a fine enough
Yeah.
answer.
it's point and shoot, dude. That's Vegas.
Yeah. Race, you're going to be the only, well, besides Ryan. Race, you and Ryan are going to be racing on it. We haven't gotten to talk to you a ton here tonight, so let's give you the option. You saw the original layout. You weren't on the show when we went through it, but you're on the show now here to talk about the new layout. What do you see looking at it? Because it looks like now we've got a lot more passing zones.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the layout they've been running in the past, which is what, to me, the previous layout really looked like. Wasn't a huge fan, but really wasn't against it. Kind of more like what Tony's saying, it's Vegas. But this track layout, the double apex corners, some of the dog leg straights, I think it'll create some better passing opportunities. A couple areas there you can set somebody up for a late breaking pass. So I think the racing will be a little bit better, and hopefully, I'm just more concerned about the pit area, but the track looks good. I know they had to kind of work with what they had, so kudos to them on that. But I'm just excited to get on track and see what it's all about. So looks good.
Ryan, you're the other one here racing. I saw on you were already commenting on social media as soon as they came out with it how ecstatic you were about the layout. Obviously, you like the new updates.
Yeah, it's way better than the old one. It sounds like they actually listened to the podcast and changed it because, I mean, it looks like it'll work a lot better with the engine package. At least, on the GP side, it looks like all the ones where you get into the bottom end, they're going to be passing zones. And then there's a lot of space in between corners. They keep it in the mid-range quite a bit on that back section. That chicane in the back there looks like it's going to be pretty hard. Normally, that's right where that power band kicks in, the power valve opens. So it's going to be pretty sketchy getting through that section. So that'll be really cool. Yeah, I like it. I mean, they listened, which is awesome to see a series listen. You don't have that often nowadays. So they listened, they changed it, they made it better. I'm really excited. I mean, the only thing that I'm worried about is it's a big track and it's a parking lot. So it probably is going to be tight, but also Vegas, that going into it. So I'm excited. Really cool track.
Alex, you're a multi-time, podium finisher, race winner when it comes to your karting career, and you've raced in Vegas on a lot of different layouts here. Looking at this one, I mean, what were your first thoughts when you saw the layout come out?
I think I'm going to agree with Ray's quite a bit. That to me, it's an improvement over the old layout. I've been to Vegas twice a year, racing stuff pretty much well. Last probably 6 years, just not actually racing, but working with race teams. This layout is definitely an improvement. Like Ray said, the pit layout looks maybe not like the best. Seems like where the track is and what I've seen on the other side where we all got to pit is maybe a bit of an issue. But the racing's definitely, Sam, like what Ryan said, the GPs are going to race much better here with the mid range.
So what are you and Race a little bit concerned about when it comes to the pit stuff, or more so just is it going to get strung out, or what are you worried?
For me, you know, I saw the layout come out online. I got on Google Earth and looked at the layout, and pretty much the pits just kind of keep going in one direction. So some of the guys that are, you know, if you're not get a preferred spot, it's going to be a little bit of an issue just trekking, you know, to the grid and then also viewing the track.
Yeah,
so
originally,
again,
sorry, don't mean to
no,
interrupt.
it's Las Vegas, so it is what it is. We're all lucky to go racing there, and it's a big attraction for a lot of racers. And well, the race teams will deal with it.
Yeah, Race, you were going to add on there your thoughts as well on the paddock.
Yeah, originally my pit request was for the 60 cents per square foot spots, and then as soon as I saw that come out, they got me. Definitely went preferred after that. So definitely, yeah, just blew a little bit more. It was a profitable weekend. No, no, I mean,
Sorry.
they had to make do with what they had. So I'm just glad we're still racing twice in Vegas and nothing had to get canceled or anything weird. But the layout definitely looks better to Ryan's point. I've never even thought about the other engine packages. I've been fortunate enough to run the last layout on KZ or whatever, the ROK shifter and the 100cc, and it didn't race well in either. So this looks like it's going to be a little bit better, kind of for everybody.
Yeah, I mean, it'll keep it from being or too tight. You know, one thing that I talked to a good bit with shifter guys, for a guy with no shifter background like myself, I mean, you don't really consider it, but everyone in shifter, and Alex, you're a seasoned shifter guy as well, talked about how tough it is for when you have to drop down into first gear, like the old Palm Beach chicane, and they were punching first, I think. Race, how many times were you guys at the first last year? Probably 3 or 4 times for all 3 of those hairpins, yeah?
Yeah, so we were all 3 times we were in first gear in every one of them. So you go first to third, first to third, first to third again.
Yeah, and then you're waiting on the guy to put the power down, and then even then it's just such an awkward jump into first versus running in second that it spreads the field out a little more.
Yeah, the only guy that was doing it right, and I didn't even do it right all weekend, was Formal. He was dropping it in first right before he got to the throttle, and it didn't upset the go-kart on entry, and it was really technical to do it in shifter. Plus, it was an easy spot to just close it down and, not allow a pass. You can just run white line the whole time, and nobody could get by you through that section. So to see a little bit more open track, hopefully this year it'll create some better racing for the shifter guys too.
Yeah, and then we'll give before we move on from the layout, let's give also a thought here for Austin Smiles. What did you think here? New layout, a little bit different for you. Obviously, you're not driving, but you are going to be working with a lot of guys this coming weekend. Stuff that kind of points out to you.
Just double apex city is what it seems like. There's a couple hairpins, but everything else is a double apex. So
point, baby, point and shoot.
Point and shoot, just like
point
yeah.
Point and
We're trying to be different than you, Tony.
Yeah.
Well, whatever, don't be. Just be real.
Stuff we were.
I definitely the new layout's going to race much better. The layout they had last year and the years past, you could easily block in all categories for laps on it, and that made a lot of the racing, especially the senior category, just a procession of cars. Whoever got to the lead would just white stripe and block every corner. The way the double apex corners, you're definitely going to some over-unders are going to present themselves and make the racing definitely better.
Yeah, I think it'll be cool to at least hopefully give that opportunity for some good racing, right? As we look at it, I mean, you've got multiple double apexes in the infield, and then, especially like on the straightaway, I mean, we'll see how flat out that chicane is going to be, or if it'll be a slight lift. I mean, it looks like it should be flat out there at the top, but in a couple of the sections, you go from a double apex corner with at least enough of a straightaway or a little bit of a bend coming out of it that you might be able to pull a gap on a guy. So you also, not only is there going to be hopefully less blocking with the double apexes, but with the back-to-back hairpins that you had last year, I mean, you had to pass and then block for like 3 corners and back the field up like 4 seconds when you do it. Otherwise, you get shuffled right back. So hopefully the racing will do a little better with some higher speed corners following a big tight hairpin like on the right side of the racetrack. Moving moving forward with that, we've also got, of course, the big announcement that we had over last week, which was the updates to the 2022 calendar, which is coming together slowly. Florida Winter Tour got their dates out again. They said they're going to do a whole new layout at the Isle Casino in Pompano Beach, which is north of Miami, just a little bit south of Fort Lauderdale. They're going to go back to Tropicana Field once again, which will mean that when they head over to Tampa, Florida, they've got a somewhat similar layout from what they originally ran there. They said they tweaked it a little bit when they were getting ready to go to Tropicana back in 2020. With the COVID stuff, they ended up canceling that 2021. With everything being tough to get in the country for COVID, they ended up canceling that event, going to Double Ocala. But they have a layout kind of set. It's similar to what they originally ran, a little bit different. And then we go to Orlando Kart Center, which is where a lot of guys will probably be keeping their rigs from February on. Back-to-back following USPKS, which means as we go to our update for everyone watching here on the 2022 National Calendar Watch, there have been quite a few updates to the calendar we've got. We've got the Stars Championship dates plugged in there. I haven't plugged in the CKNA dates because those rumor is subject to be looked at for the Spring Nats. Their initial date is going to be the Winter Nationals they've got in Jacksonville following WK Daytona. So you would have 3 major 3-day events. Really, Scoos is a 4-day at least. If you're not practicing Thursday, you may be practicing Wednesday because the track's open for Wednesday practice as well each year. Normally gets about 50% of the field from December 27th with move-in at Daytona and then racing the 28th, 29th, 30th. Then up at Jacksonville, starting racing on the 31st, going to January 2nd, I think. And then you have a couple days that you went to SCUSA. There won't be a lot of crossover, I think, between all 3, but you'll see some crossover from WK Daytona to CKNA. I think the crowd that you'll see at all these races will be very, very similar. So that's why we have these ones as our main calendar. We've obviously locked in the ROK Cup dates, so we know where we're going there. For the last 2 Stars dates, which is more of a budding touring series, doesn't have everybody locked on yet. But it's a series that's on the radar for a lot of shifter guys because the shifter fields are decent. So if you're a ROK guy, you'd run ROK and Stars, or you'd run Pro Tour and Stars. And then for the KA guys, they run usually USPKS and or Pro Tour, and then they maybe add a Stars deal in to kind of run as a second, almost regional type deal. We know that the IAMA USA Grand National Championship is going to come back to Mooresville, but now with the new dates for the 2021 season, it's tough to say because their weekend got booted. SCUSA moved up their Summer Nats into July 29th to the 31st. That was the weekend that had the Grand National Championship this past year. So the Grand Nats might get moved into August. Just speculating here. I don't really know where Eric Jones and the IAMA East crew are looking at putting it, or it might go deeper into the fall and take which obviously they announced their dates. They're going to Orlando. We're still waiting to hear the official announcement of where they're going to end up for round 2. It's not going to be in Texas like we originally thought, which we covered on last week's show. So we're still waiting on that one as well. But at least most of the dates coming together. And then, of course, the last 2 events of the year will be in Las Vegas again. That's what we're expecting, of course, with ROK Vegas and Scooper Nats probably going back to their original dates. Hopefully by then a lot of the COVID stuff is over and we're back up to 400 to 500 entries, which this weekend at ROK should be somewhere around 300. So we watched all those dates come out last week. We didn't get a lot of reactions on it. Tony, first thoughts here. New Winter Tour schedule, 2 temporary tracks, but at least Orlando's back to back. What were your thoughts on the new dates coming out?
Well, first thoughts, to be honest, I'm literally looking at all you guys' faces and nobody's smiling. Like that screen.
There you got it.
Let's smile. I mean, come on, dude. Everyone's like, oh, fucking sourpuss.
Well, I'm falling asleep on my comfy couch, Tony.
Well,
Got the right idea.
yeah. I don't really have a whole lot of thought on the ROK calendar, to be honest, because I haven't done ROK in a while. And where we are at now, I'm not certain that it all meets where it's supposed to be. So to do it, but I dig in the fact that it's I mean, honestly, it's the same schedule except minus Ocala, just one forward. Does that make sense or no?
Yeah, I mean,
Nailed it.
enough. Kind of. I think we get where you're trying to be at. I mean, you're right. You look at the major schedule. Not a lot changes for 2022. We're going still. The Pro Tour is going to be the same schedule. We're still going to Vegas at the end. We know the Grand Nats will be in Mooresville. We just don't know where. PKS changes up a little bit where they're going to Orlando. So Orlando's kind of taking the place of Ocala, but at least the dates are coming together. And we were talking off air right before we're going. I mean, I'm sure everybody would love to know where we're going for the SCUSA Winter Series because we're now only about 2.5 months out from going green in January.
How do we not know right now where we're going for SCUSA?
Huh?
How do we not know right now where we're going for SCUSA?
I don't know, man. That's a good question here. We'll send you to go right to Tom's house, see if he can give you an answer.
I don't know where they're going to go,
We'll
though.
find
They're
out.
running out
We'll
of
find out
tracks.
when we're
You
in
got Homestead,
Vegas.
Orlando, and
Yeah.
Jacksonville.
Yeah.
It's a crapshoot.
Yeah.
Here,
I
we'll
really
just
hope we
patient.
go to Jacksonville.
Tony, will you be our paparazzi if we send you out for a week? We borrow you from Sean, send you with like a KC van, like a news van, post it outside SCUSA HQ, and you just like are count them until we get the dates. You're in?
Yeah, I mean, but
It's warmer in California.
he won't
Tony.
like that they're doing it.
It's
But
warmer.
yes, I will do it.
Tom enjoys the Dino as well.
Yeah. You
I
can
said,
drive with-
Tom's got a good wine collection.
Yeah.
It'll be a good place to visit.
Yes.
I see we've got you really weighing it out. We got to go find some sponsors to rent you a van to go sit in for a week then. Yeah?
Plane ticket.
Plane ticket. All right. Well, before we go on the dates here, we've got too many comments coming in to not put these up on the screen before we get to our Q&A at the end. First of all, Mehmet Kara talking about how Tony's running at 2 frames per hour. Naka's offered to buy you a faster internet. So talking about sponsors to send you out to SCUSA, California. There it is right there. He wants to get you some better connection. And there was more. Oh,
Tell
Sean
Naka to go
wants
fuck
a
himself.
bandwidth killer. So you're the one killing the internet somehow, Tony.
Okay. Deal.
Weston was saying, do you guys still have AOL up there at MCC Cincinnati?
Sweet girl.
Sure.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Sorry. I had to throw him up, Tony. I'm not trying to put you on blast here, but it's just too easy of a lob. Like you're moving in slow motion. It's easy to catch you.
Okay.
We're gonna take a quick commercial. Before we take our quick commercial break on that, everyone, we at least know where we're going. Ryan, you're gonna be racing all 3 of the ROK Winter Tours, so you were waiting for the stuff to come out. You got to run at Isle Casino, of course, this year. They said they're gonna change the layout up a little bit. What are some stuff you'd like to see them tweak on it? Since we got to talk about the ROK one.
No double apexes. That's the problem with the Isle Casino layout is it's impossible to pass. So the actual layout itself isn't terrible. It's just like make 1 apex instead of 2, and it would make the racing so much better because now it's like you just turn in early. Like double apexes are hard to pass in anyway. So yeah, make it a little bit better. And I don't know. I'm happy they just switched the Rio track. That makes me a lot happier. They're going to Orlando. That's fantastic. I don't have to leave my house for like a month, maybe over a month, which is unbelievably amazing for me. So I am super happy with just that alone. They've sold me on the whole winter tour.
Nice. Alex smiled. Race, do you know what your winter program is going to be? Or are you still putting all that together? Do we know where you're going to be at?
Sorry, I was muted. Yeah, so far we're going to do the Challenge of the Americas, which is also a ROK series in the West Coast. Most of our customers actually live out there in the West Coast, so we'll do that. And then we will definitely be at the USPKS round, and I'm going to try and hit at least one of the last ROK rounds while it's down there.
Yeah, I can't disrespect Andy at all if he's watching to that West Coast guys. We got their dates to throw up there as well. I got to fit more room on that graphic to make sure we can make them all fit because that series should be pretty big. They were pushing about almost to 150, I think, on average, if we're not higher, which is pretty good for a series that doesn't have the extra support classes. It's a single class for everyone up besides 100cc junior and senior, which they said at least this year was allowing the KA and the VLR to run. I think the plan is to do the same thing next year. So that usually runs on the final weekend of the month. So if you ran all the way through January and February and into March, you could have 3 weekends back to back to back between SCUSA, ROK, USPKS's opener, and Challenge of the Americas. So busy winter as always. Alex, I'm sure that's going to keep you busy in the shop. But like Ryan said, that's not too far from you with a couple races going to Orlando, right?
No, it's really nice. We're lucky being a Florida-based team. A lot of racing in Florida. I like the temporary tracks. I think that's good. Helps bring a balance to all the race teams. Having a couple of races, definitely going from ROK to USPKS in Orlando. It's only an hour from my home. That's going to be easy on the home life. And also get some track knowledge of the track. Excited for the winter. I really hope SCUSA announce their locations sooner than later. But we'll have to see.
They won't.
No faith.
Big surprise, bro. Be like this.
Yeah. I do like Homestead. I hope we don't double Homestead up again. But I've also heard rumors about Jacksonville, which is maybe not the best.
Fuck off.
So,
Fuck off.
We'll see what they come up
Are you
with.
serious? Are you fucking serious?
I don't know what's better, a Jacksonville and Homestead or double Homestead.
Double Homestead 10 times out of 10.
Yeah.
Way better than Jacksonville.
Yeah, just
Thank you.
from a guy who has
said
to,
that?
pay for the.
Who said that?
We have to pay for the carts that you race, Ryan, and they destroy go-karts. Destroy them, like literally.
But it's supposed to get better.
What is the
It's supposed
difference
to get
if you
better.
smash the fence and jack on the left of the straightaway? What is the difference? What is the fucking? Come on, man, dude.
No, that's true. That's
Yes.
true. I know we could.
Either way.
We've got none of the Masters drivers will race Homestead. So start the Winter Series with 0
Homestead?
Masters drivers, or
No,
they'll get
that's true.
4 or 5 that we had last year.
Yeah.
To where USPKS
No, I'm gonna
Masters
go to
drivers.
Jacksonville.
Mm.
To smash
USPKS got a
the fence.
fantastic Masters field because they put on good series and they go to good tracks. They don't abuse the drivers, don't abuse the equipment. The Masters is the hobby guys, which, I have one Masters driver. So I'm trying to make a team full of Master guys, but they're a good influence or good meter of what people want. They don't want to abuse the go-karts they buy once a year. They don't want to abuse their body because they go to work on Monday. And they're looking for a good series that's going to treat them well.
That's a really good point. I don't think anyone really broke it down like that the Masters class is honestly probably the hardest, the best gauge of whether or not a series is doing a good job. Because you're right. I mean, the mini, the micro.
Until they smash the fence at Jacksonville. Just fucking stand to your face,
I don't know what's best, like I said. Homestead's
The
rough
left.
on parts,
It's the left.
rough on the bodies. We lost in the last 2 or 3 years. We've lost 2 juniors each round of Winter Series that hurt themselves with ribs or injuries from Homestead 2 weekends in a row, or 2 months in a row. And most competitive junior or first year senior guys all go the weekend before, all test. You wear out and you hurt your drivers. It's tough.
Yeah. We'll see. Now, SCUSA, the last I had talked with Andre back at Orlando, Ryan may have better insider knowledge than I did. Andre was trying to offer the same deal he did to USPKS to SCUSA for a Winter Series date at some point if they wanted to call him on it. So Orlando wasn't out of the question at least about a month and a half ago. I don't know if that's any more out of the question now, Ryan, or if anything you've heard is different. Or can let you think
I haven't heard anything. I mean, all I know is Andre wants to race, and so he's like, when I spoke with him, he's trying to make a lot of it happen. So, if the series isn't being unreasonable and they want to race, then he'll make it happen. I know he's trying. I mean, he's doing USPKS and ROK, so I mean, he's working with both sides. You know, he's not favoring Miami over ROK like everybody says he does. You know, he's not doing that. He's making it happen. So I think I don't know if the series isn't being unreasonable, it'll go to Orlando.
100%. Obviously, Ryan knows Andre really well. I know Andre really well. He's every time he puts on a go-kart race, he's going to be losing money because his rental business is great. He does it for love of the sport. He's going to do whatever he can to help karting, and anything anybody can do to push the racing going to Orlando's awesome.
So can we ask a question more to guys as a whole? Do you honestly feel that a winter series race can go to Jacksonville? I mean, honestly, ask that question to yourselves.
They had a Pro Tour race in Jacksonville years ago.
Shut the fuck up.
But how many 18-wheelers pulled into that one?
Yeah.
That was
I had a broken arm. I didn't go to that. My brother went. I didn't go.
That was an FKCS race, like fucking.
No, they had a Pro Tour race.
Yeah, you're laughing, Ryan.
I was there.
No,
I was there for that
way. Sorry. Just say it.
I'm look, man, it's a good fallback. I think if anything, if you're being really realistic, Tony, it's probably a card they've got ready to go in case they aren't happy with the deal.
Cannot fucking do a race there.
No, seriously. All right, take the finance. They look, ROK, SCUSA, and USPKS, all three series. Everybody knows has a good brand name, and no matter if they put a race on Planet USA or on the moon, they're going to pull a minimum 150 guys. Right? They all know they're going to have their traveling base go through with it, especially if they put it with other decent tracks on the calendar. Now, will they get 50 more entries if they go to a better track or a track with a bigger club following than going to a track in the middle of nowhere? No. Or yes, they'll have 50 more entries going somewhere better, something that makes more sense. Homestead's more technical in Jacksonville, a little bit safer, obviously harder on the ribs with the curbs. Orlando's the best option out of the three when it comes to taking out the issues of the curbs, if Homestead is as is in the previous years. Not saying that they aren't going to make any changes to it because they're still actively working on it. And Jacksonville's easy and can be sketchy. But Jacksonville's cheap, at least in the past, been very, very cheap. So even if you go from 200 entries looking at Orlando, but you're looking at 150 in Jacksonville, but Jacksonville's going to charge you 4 times less, well, as a series owner, some guys might take that. Or if they can't get what they want, you know, I mean, a lot of these guys talk with a bunch of different tracks. Even hearing from USPKS, that second track has bounced from what we thought was speed sports. That didn't work, not necessarily because of contract, but just because of space. But they talked to a bunch of different tracks, and a lot of them they didn't end up liking the pricing on, so they didn't go there. So, I mean, as a series owner, they have to go. As a whole, it's a real possibility they could go there.
As a whole. Have we ever seen anything that like 250, 240, to whatever the hell it is? You cannot put that in Jacksonville. It's just not going to happen.
I think Jacksonville is probably definitely a bad option.
Yeah, it's
you can't do it, dude. You can't do it
based on facility, based on space. But I personally hope it's not a Homestead double.
How many FKCS races were you there years past that was 250 or better? How many?
Let's take Phil's advice. Cut to commercial. Go to the last segment.
We can go running down in circles on it all day. Ryan's
look at fucking JP. JP the comment right there. Told you.
It's honestly just the funniest topic to talk about because I mean it's just so out of nowhere, and that's
because
why.
How the fuck can you?
No, I mean, but seriously, it's. We'll table this discussion for another time, Tony. We'll go to commercial. When we come back, guys, we've got some more questions for them, but we got a lot of questions we're going to ask these guys that you guys have already submitted. So if this is your last chance, if you want to submit any other questions, some of our guests, we don't know when the next time we'll get to have Alex Speed and Austin Miles on, and we'll see if Tony's internet improves because it can go out at any time. So you got to get that question in now so that we can ask him as soon as the commercial comes out. He might also be on a cigarette break after, so we don't know. But we're going to go to commercial. When we come back, Q&A starts. Stick with us. KC Happy Hour rolls on.
I'm Billy Vincent, owner of MPG Motorsports. What we do at MPG is we try to keep it a nice, fun family atmosphere, try to combine sort of the bigger things and of the bigger teams and the professionalism down with sort of some of the fun sort of family-oriented atmosphere. We try to not only develop drivers, but also the parents and the families for just in knowledge in general in motorsports. It all starts in karting. What we try to do is try to help the drivers, the moms, the dads understand the sport of motorsports in general, not just karting, but what it takes to get all the way up through. Whether you end up wanting to be a driver or a mechanic or an engineer, we can help you with that, and that's what we're here for. If you're interested in joining us at MPG, our home base is at Whiteland Raceway Park in Indianapolis, and you can contact us at info@willpowerkart.com, and one of our great people will reach out to you, and we'll try to put the best program together.
KC Happy Hour is presented by Precision Performance Karting. PPK is the exclusive South Florida dealer for Coyote Motorsports kart racing chassis and Coyote's newest distributor. However, owner John Seglem and Coyote Motorsports' relationship spans across numerous decades in the sport, meaning that you've got years of winning expertise at your service. PPK offers trackside support at all of the CKNA South Division events, the CKNA Majors, such as the Spring Nationals and the Grand Nationals, the Sunshine State Karting Challenge, and a number of club races in the Southeast. PPK also has an impressive driver roster at these events, racking up multiple wins and podiums in 2021 with longtime Coyote Motorsports driver Chris Carroll and KC Happy Hour's own Paulie Massimino and Brandon Jarsacrack. If you're looking to get on the same race-winning equipment as these drivers, from the Coyote Motorsports chassis to the Odenthal motor mounts and Greyhound racing seats, Precision Performance Karting has you covered. Check out Precision Performance Karting on Facebook and Instagram, or email them at ppkartingfl@gmail.com.
All right, we've lost Tony again, but we've got everybody else back. I've got some breaking news for whenever Tony gets back in the seat, so we'll wait on him to hop on in just a moment. But let's see, going back on through some of the. I see him move. He wants to come back in.
He's trying to finish that last drag.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Well, let's talk here. Andy Saisman, Mr. Challenge of the Americas, is in the chat and watching us this weekend. He's stocked up. He's got a couple axles and the real party, vodka, Crown, Bacardi. He's ready to go. So shout out to Andy. We'll have to talk to him soon. But he's tuning in. Wanted to give a little bit of love to Mr. Rock out west. A few more guys were jumping on the Jacksonville slander train. Jacksonville's good for parts sales with Thomas Buckley. Sure, McAllister Jacksonville was done in 2000. And of course, the other option, if any of these winter series wanted, if SCUSA really wants to do anything, or they've got all the barriers, it'd be a really expensive deal to try and bring barriers out to do a temporary track. And I don't think you'll see a SCUSA Rock back to back in anywhere of those places, but it wouldn't be a bad idea. Now, this is a question we're waiting on Tony to come back on, and it's worded a little bit different. At least the difference.
Oh no!
I don't know where that one's going to go. So
it's not going to be good.
Don't ask Tony.
Yeah, he's going to go on.
Have a 40-minute rant.
Yeah.
We all know the answer.
Yeah.
Ryan's food's going to get cold.
Yeah,
exactly.
All right. I did. While we're waiting on a few more and waiting on Tony to get back from his break here, I did actually wanted to talk to you, Alex, and have you kind of talk, if you're comfortable with it, because we were talking a good bit at the end of the weekend about USPKS GoPro and thoughts on penalties and how involved or not involved race control should be. And you had one of the more interesting takes I had heard in a while about it. So can you kind of explain what your thoughts or where you think a race official should be or how a series and officiating should go?
Well, I'll start with the biggest thing. I run a race team. I do driver coaching. I do all the chassis setup stuff, a little bit of motor stuff. But in all the series, I seem to spend at least an hour or so at the end of the day in the race steward's office trying to figure out penalties. And it's, 90% of the time I win the penalty because it was wrong, whether it was a jump start, avoidable contact, things like that. And to me, I think that I was a big advocate for SCUSA 2 years ago to bring in the pushback bumper. Like, they had a big problem with jump starts. I said, well, oh, there's always crashes in turn one. I said, well, bring on the European, the pushback bumper, and there'll be less crashes in turn one. And that has yielded, less crash in turn one. I think that the pushback bumper is an awesome device. It shows how much contact was there. And to me, if you choose to defend and you get pushed a little bit, but not enough to deploy the pushback bumper, I think that is, that's fair game, I guess, more or less. Yeah, like I said, I spent a lot of time in Stewart's office this year and even last year, and that's not what I want to. I don't see my job as being a lawyer. So to me, my whole idea was, hey, if a corner worker or race director sees something happen on track, make note of it. And then if somebody comes in and complains, hey, my driver got hit in this corner, then you address the penalty rather than basically at the end of the race having a stack of penalties this thick of every contact that happened during each race. I think all the drivers, they race each other year round, and they can kind of police it themselves a little bit. Definitely with the bumper.
At least with the bumper, would you have the bumper, like the automatic penalties like that go through, and then just more of the gray area penalties you'd hold on and have the officials make notes of?
For me, yes, exactly. There's no, it's cut and dry. People ask me, oh, someone brake checked me. I didn't hit them. It happened before the start. No, your bumper goes in. That's a penalty. I think probably 70% or more kids that are racing go-karts want to be professional racing drivers. And at some point, if they especially drive an open wheel car with a wing, you hit your wing, who cares? It's you can blame the other person, but it's a penalty's on you because you destroyed the front of your go-kart or car.
Gotcha. So, I mean, that's probably, and the reason I wanted to bring Alex on to talk about that is that's one of the more interesting concepts. We've talked about penalties, USPKS this year. Ryan and Brandon were on the show right after Road America, and we were talking about how we didn't think that the 2 and 4 positions were going to be harsh enough because you had guys cutting the chicane flat out on a few of the starts, knowing that it was going to be a 4-position dock at worst. They'd pick up 10 or 15. And of course, those are the 2, full-time active guys that we have. Race, you're still pretty semi-active, and that was again, I don't know if you've heard a take similar to that on officiating, but letting the guys settle it amongst themselves. I mean, you grew up a little bit kind of between 2 eras, right? You go back to even the 2000s, and then of course the 90s. Drivers were settling a lot on their own. Would you like it to go back to that and have the officials pull back a little bit in a way, but still make notes in case?
I'd probably say my favorite officiating throughout the year, I've always had a lot of good experience at the ROK stuff, and the way they assess the penalties is similar to kind of what Alex was saying earlier. If a corner worker marks something down or whatever, usually one of the race directors go back, looks at it, says yes or no, and then you have a chance to fight that penalty. And they're pretty reasonable in talking with you. But I do also agree is I end up spending way too much time in a steward's office arguing and trying to for them to see my way. And I do miss a little bit of the old school kind of racing. There wasn't as much officiating as there was respect, it felt like, on track. This was, again, before plastic rear bumpers and pushbacks and all that stuff. So it was a different style of racing. Most of the time, if you decided to hit somebody hard enough, you sometimes just ended up on top of them. But there was more respect on the racetrack between drivers than I see now. I'm just getting back into single speed racing shifter. We haven't had to use pushbacks for really ever until this year at some series. And it wasn't really that bad. A lot of those guys respect each other a little bit more than some in other classes, but now having to adjust to the pushbacks and the penalty systems, I would say that, yeah, I kind of miss the old school style of racing because I agree with Alex. If you're going to white line the track on the white flag lap, I'm going to move you. Like, it is what it is. And if my bumper doesn't get pushed in, I feel like that's racing at that point. But that didn't used to happen that way. So I'd like to see it kind of somehow make its way back, but I just don't foresee it happening with plastic rear bumpers and pushback bumpers. So I think the officials could maybe be a little bit, use their time a little more wisely maybe. And I'm a huge advocate of footage being kind of there to help. I mean, these big series, I think all need to have camera systems because it just solidifies what actually is happening on track. Or everybody should be required to use GoPros at a national or something. Everybody owns one. But maybe that footage should be confiscated after a race, and if there's an incident, they can pull the footage from each of their cameras and view it and make a call on that.
Yeah, I mean, Austin, you're in a similar spot to Alex and Tony and Race here nowadays, right? Where you spend a lot of time working for bigger team operations and going through and watching video and seeing penalties. You know, I mean, what are your thoughts on where we're at with officiating now versus back then? And I mean, you know, Alex's idea of making notes but maybe not implementing them until it seems like an issue would save people a lot of time on the protest side.
We did have a few issues with Carson and Cole Morgan this year. Mainly Cole. Joe kind of deals with Carson stuff, but I step in when needed. But with Cole, we got multiple penalties in one of the sessions. We dropped way back in KA and worked our way back through and had a drop down, so he was moving people out of the way. So we didn't get necessarily penalized for moving the people out of the way, but we did get a full bumper in. So we just took that on the chin and took it as a win for us because we only lost whatever it was, 5 spots or something like that from where we had ended up. But we had probably moved at least 10 guys out of the way. So I think it's going to happen either way. Just like Race and Alex said, you're going to white line the track, you're going to get moved out of the way. Period. Plain and simple. Like, that's racing and that's part of it. So if your nose doesn't come in, good for you. If it comes in, well, then that's on you. And to the testament of like going car racing, done open wheel cars, Continental Tire Series cars, everything like that. Like Alex said, you hit somebody with an open wheel car, wing is gone, so you got to come in and change it. So you kind of got to take the penalty where you get it. So everything you need to learn is learning from respecting it and not using it to detriment yourself.
I will say that I do disagree quite a bit with the whole drop down thing. I think the drop down has made racing in the United States absolutely atrocious. I think the racing is 10 times worse than it was before because we've lost all respect for each other. Before, at least if somebody pissed you off, I mean, there's so many times at OGP where I'd get on Oliver's nerves or Kyle's nerves and I just get sent. There's a few times I was at a pole, but it happened and I learned and I realized that I should respect these guys a little bit more and not drive them like that. And now you don't see that because now they just white line it and you can't do anything about it. And if you do try and do something about it, then you get penalized. So I'm not a huge fan of the whole drop down system. I think, like you guys have been saying, you should do more video. When I raced in Australia, they required all of the drivers to have a GoPro on their kart, mounted at a specific spot. And if you didn't have the camera on, it was a penalty. And if you didn't have the video and it didn't work and they needed your camera, then it was also a penalty. So it was like, make sure your equipment's charged, make sure everything, you had to run it. And it was required. That was that's how they did their penalties. So if they wanted to look at something, they would take your video. They had somebody that would go out, grab the video, they'd look at it, and that's how they did all of their stuff. The big problem though is like you guys talk about like car racing. Yeah, like car racing, you can't hit somebody with the wing, like obviously, but like we're racing go-karts. We're not racing cars. Cars, the tracks are way bigger. I mean, how many times do you watch a Formula One race or a NASCAR race and the guys pass on the outside versus karting? Like you can't pass on the outside in karting. It's almost impossible. And in a car, it's quite possible. If somebody blocks, there's enough track, you can run the wider line and actually make up the time off the corner. And in karting, it's literally impossible. If you go to the outside of somebody, they just turn into you and you just drive into the dirt. And there's, that's normally not how it is. So there is a bit of contact with racing karts, and that's the nature of the sport. And that's just how it is. And like I said earlier, I've said it in previous videos, the drop down has made the racing so much dirtier. They just pod you in the center of the corner. They don't brake, and once drivers get a drop down, they just don't care about penalties anymore. And like you said, you can just rip through a field and just start slamming guys and they can't do anything about it. You can come through a field and have a good run, but then there's a driver who saw you come through or took you out or whatever, and they have a drop down already, and then they just keep going at you. And it's like, I can't even retaliate against this guy and like get some respect back because my race is going to be double over. So I don't know. There's a challenge that needs to be addressed with the drop down. And I think that like the constant issue of, I'll get to you, but the constant issue of like mechanics and like being in the steward's office, like, that's how it is. And it's sucks that we have to be in there. I wish it would be less like that. But like, even in Formula One, like you see Toto Wolff every race, he's over in the steward's office, and it doesn't matter what level of racing you're in. It's like everybody's complaining at the end of the day. You always have somebody who's upset, and you have to go, because I do it too. Like, I have to go to the steward's office and sit there for hours at the end of the day, and it sucks. But like, regardless of who's officiating, I still end up in the steward's office and still have to sit there for an hour.
Well, I don't want to get the conversation too derailed. Now, Alex, I'll let you kind of jump back in there onto the pushback stuff. But I think the more point that I want to talk on, because we've talked pushbacks a lot, is like how involved we want the officials to be. And I've always thought about this. I've never really thought to ask. And so, Alex, I'll let you finish here. But should we consider like officiating different classes differently, right? Should you be a lot more hands off with the senior guys, your masters guys, and to a degree your juniors to do it like Alex's way? Because I like the concept of what Alex is saying, where you let the drivers decide it, and if they don't decide it, they go to the official, and the official can step in as a secondary, right? Which is what we were mainly talking about. So you keep the officials from intervening. But I mean, I think now, even saying it out loud about the mini and micro parents, and you just hear their descriptions of how it is when they go to Europe, where it really is just pushback penalties only. And the teams are you got to get told. The kids don't know how to like go back and get respect back. They just think, go hit that guy. And then so you got mini kids and micro kids getting told to go wreck the other kid to get the respect back. And you end up with a really dangerous, I think, racing environment. So Alex, going back onto you, as you can kind of dish back on Ryan a little about the pushback, but with your idea, I think it'd work good if you had it tiered for certain classes of how involved officials would be.
For sure, I think the official involvement should definitely be tiered. For sure, you got to teach kids at a young age to follow rules and race clean. Ryan, still, even though he's an older senior driver, is too young to see when junior and senior had 20-car pileup every year in Vegas for what? Literally 20-car pileup.
Yeah.
Same for you, Xander. You're younger, but it literally was pileups of 20 cars.
Yeah.
If you started outside the top 20, you were going to crash in turn one. And that's the way it was in Vegas for junior and senior at the time tag. They've cleaned that up a ton with pushback bumpers. And also to the video camera, which I'm a big supporter of video. But what's the advantage of having a video in the front and rear? If it's not for pushback bumpers, you could still white stripe. If you show a video you got hit. So what's the difference of hey, I can block and I got hit, but not hit hard enough to knock in the bumper? Then you're leaving a lot into someone else's hands of discretionary calls. To where the pushback bumper is black and white. A tram lane is black and white. I like black and white rules. I don't like rules up for interpretation.
Yeah. I think a lot of guys we almost end up split on this, probably of almost like left and right wing of like how involved everybody wants the officials to be. I think that's probably the most hotly contested thing in sports. Scusa and ROK are super, super involved in the penalties. You end up with guys in the box. USPKS, they've called a lot more this last weekend to kind of catch up to them, but the penalties were lighter. And in the past, those series have kind of been hands off, and then you end up without the pushbacks, 20-car pileups. Race, I saw you mute your mic. What are your thoughts on all this?
Well, so you touched on a subject that is sensitive to me. Last year at the Pro Tour, they told us we had a drivers meeting for, I don't know I can't remember if it was all seniors, but shifters. They had a little meeting with us, basically said, you guys can go race like men. You're supposed to be pros. Respect each other on the track. That don't fucking happen that way. So unfortunately, and it ended up biting a couple guys in the ass. Again, we didn't have pushbacks, and after being, I feel like, policed for so long, you just let a bunch of people free to do what they wanted. Didn't really help. So, within reason, if there was, it takes the drivers to respect each other for you not to have to call a bunch of penalties. Since that's kind of been gone for so long, I just feel like racing as a whole has changed a little bit in karting, obviously, and I definitely think the officials need to be involved. I just think. I really agree with Ryan. I don't like the pushback stuff. Now you just get Euro swerved, and honestly, that's like a free trip to the barriers for me if that happens, and that's just kind of normal now. So, I don't know. I'm not an advocate for the pushbacks. I do understand Alex's point. They used to have massive pileups, but there's somewhere to be said in there. I think seniors, the pro classes, shouldn't have pushbacks. That's my opinion. Shifters and tag senior maybe shouldn't. At this, we're supposed to be pros, and this is a pro series. I don't think they should. Juniors and cadets absolutely should be taught, not to use contact. And if you do, you're going to get some penalties for it. And hopefully that respect could travel with the tier system to an extent.
I'm a big advocate where shifters should not have pushback bumpers. I think shifter racing with front brakes, if someone hits you out of the way, like that's a big deal, more than a bumper penalty.
Yeah.
Having front brakes.
Yeah, having the front. I mean, especially because the way those accordion when they race, when you get down into the corner, it's really easy to get in a little bit too hot because you go from way back to way tight with the short braking zones for them. And on the starts too. I mean, the whole reason for the pushbacks is the starts. Shifters don't need a cleaner start, so they're fine. I think to Race's point, I think the last thing we can kind of end off here and kind of maybe come to somewhat of an agreement on, if we can all meet in the middle, is we're starting a lot of go-karts at some of these big races. Should we be starting anything more than a certain number, and what's the happy number that we should be at? I've said on here weeks on end that I don't think we should be over 40. Yeah, Alex, you're talking Supernats. Supernats almost always starts 44, if not usually a couple more with the provisionals in after the LCQs and everything. So going back to those events, I mean, that's no surprise at all. With 50 go-karts going into a corner, they're going to wreck. The CIK and the FAA, they start 34. What's that number, and do we think, should it be standard for everybody? I mean, where should that number be at?
For me, it's really, really difficult. I think by precedence with like European standards, it's 34 or 36.
One of the two.
I think that is a good normal. I don't want to have an LCQ because we have 38 drivers. That becomes difficult. But if we have got over 50 drivers, to me, an LCQ and 34 is a good standard.
Do you think we could run no pushbacks on a single speed class at 34 to turn one?
The only way to tell is take them off, see how it goes. I go out there and I do driver coach with my kids. Not so much recently, but in the years past, I go out there and we, to me, to push your bumper in, you have to hit somebody pretty hard. And for all my young kids that moved up from mini going to junior, they said, I didn't even remember hitting somebody. I'm like, your bumper's in. To me, to knock your bumper in, at least in my personal experience, I knew I hit somebody, and it was a decent impact. Did I blow them out of the way? No, but I knew I made the impact, and the kids to me need to learn keep their bumper clear.
Smiles?
I think one of the let me jump in here for a second. I definitely don't like the pushback bumper. I'm going to agree with Ryan on that. I mean, like the first time I ever went to France, it just changed racing forever. And now the racing they do over there is now coming here, and it's more of like just the blocking, and like you get next to people, they just swerve into you and stuff like that. And it's just not very good. I think though, to fix the starts, we've talked about this on here before. I think they start us like way too early down the straightaway. And if you think about it, the people that are 20 rows back, by the time they get to turn one, they're already doing almost full speed. And then most of the times, especially like at Supernats, we're going into a hairpin corner where we're going probably less than 20, 25 miles an hour. So we're going from 50, 60 miles an hour down to nothing. And usually that's what causes all the big pileups. So I think part of it goes into like track design, especially when we have a temporary circuit. I don't think the first corner should really be a hairpin, and we should be able to like start farther down the straightaway so that we're not going full speed when we go to the first corner.
Yeah, I mean that's where we try to be, but I agree. I think that the further you put them down, at least the better. Supernats for the longest time, they'd during that last bit of the era, it seemed like we were going green out of the last corner. We were full speed by the time we got down to those hairpins. So that definitely magnified the 20 car pileups for sure.
The big part is the officials at news at the time they actually threw around the idea of standing start for single speed classes because of the crashes in turn one. To me, that's crazy. You can't do standing start.
So a lot of
and
new clutches.
To me, you also shouldn't get a jump start penalty as a pole sitter at X30 either. So it's weighing things out. There's a lot of different moving parts that people are trying to make decisions on.
Yeah. Do you, yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of penalties like that. That's where the penalty stack gets big too, is the tramline violations. Last quick thing. I know I said last thing a minute ago, Ryan. Don't kill me. All right? But
Ryan's so hungry.
do we need to still have tramline
Every time
violations?
I'm basically like, I have dinner ready.
Should we be having tramline specific penalties? Because I think a lot of penalties that we end up in the they're just little, like almost slaps on the wrist, right? But you look at penalties that actually affect races, guys, when you get slammed out of the way, or someone doing the 2-move blocking deal, that's going to make a difference. If we're supposed to only block one lane, but tramline penalties end up for some of these races being like half the list of penalties. Does it make a difference forcing all those guys to be inside the lines coming to the green? Not a jump start where they're getting alongside, but when they poke out a line.
Who are you asking?
Anyway, Smiles, why don't we go to you? I'm sorry. Speaking out loud. Smiles, go ahead. Should we still have tramline violations if you're not nosing ahead of the guy, but you're out halfway out the box before the green?
If you're 2 wheels out, I don't see an issue with it. If you're like fully out, then yeah, because at that point you're already committed to going by him, and at that point you have a run on the guy, so you're gonna go by. If you're halfway out, you're still blocked halfway by the other cart, and then you have another guy coming down on you from the other side. So for me, 2 wheels out is not necessary, but all 4 is kind of necessary, I guess.
Enough for black and white, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. Brian, what do you think about tramline or some of these extra little penalties?
I mean, I kind of agree with Alex. Like, they are what they are. That whenever I am dealing with kids, and they're like, "Oh, I wasn't even that far out," it's like, "Oh, you were out." Like, they say, "Don't leave it." It's not hard, like, to do. Like that's the thing, is like, it's not hard. And that's where, like, I'm kind of that same way with the drop down, because I don't really get drop downs that often. Like, I keep my nose clean, so like I've gotten probably, I can count them all in a hand total of how many drop downs I've gotten. It's black and white. I mean, to me, that stuff like that is simple. Like, it's easy. Like, okay, you did it. It's wrong. I think we're talking as a whole and karting as a whole. There's tram lines aren't really super important.
Well, we'll round it off with that here. And one thing I do want to round off the show with is we completely lost Tony. We have absolutely no idea where Tony is. I mean, he's gone.
Tony's passed out now.
We lost him. I don't know if he went to go get another bottle of wine or what changed. We none of the viewers have saw it because we took him out. Tony's been gone for like 25 minutes now. I don't know where. Sean was in the chat. I was hoping he'd check on him. We love having Tony on the show, but I don't know where he's at. So hopefully, well wishes to Tony wherever he's messed off to. Maybe he passed out. He went to bed. Tony Chaser live here.
Oh God!
we completely. He took the chair too. Derek Zimmerman noticed. He rolled away. You don't even have the chair in the background anymore. He's just completely gone. So. I wanted to end off on a lighter note because we got kind of down. We're always bagging on everything, and we ended up being a little bit tired. But hopefully Tony's having a great night. Everyone here, thanks as always for all of our guests coming on. Thank you guys for tuning in, KC Happy Hour, and hopefully next week we'll give you guys an update on where in the world Tony Tesoro is off to, and we'll see if he makes it back onto the show after. Have a good night, guys.
Happy hour 20.